Hello you lovely people, this is me the Bombay Chef Varun Inamdar and I am back with yet another simple yet stunning recipe. Well, the chicken shawarma salad recipe that I had recently shown you has been wonderfully appreciated. In case you're thinking why I'm talking about shawarma suddenly, tomorrow is World Shawarma Day and I'm going to show you yet another shawarma recipe, but not a usual one. This one is a lamb shawarma in the form of a bun. Let's begin. For the lamb shawarma buns, the first and the most important thing is to understand the quality of meat. To get that right, and that is half the battle won. Of course, I'm going to divide the recipe into 2-3 components. The first one, of course, is getting the lamb mixture correct. Now, I'm not using the traditional Arabic method of kind of spit roasting this. I'm using a wok to make this. You can, of course, pressure cook this as well, because this way we can all make this very easily in our homes. What's important here is to get the meat nice and chunky, and it should be a mix of something fatty and something meaty like so. It's important to cut the meat into larger chunks because eventually it's going to literally be like pulled meat, like pulled lamb. Now, if you cut these into tiny bits, then it's just going to be chunky, it's just going to be meaty. But what is important here is to get the laces or get the fibers of the meat correct. And that is why large chunks, which eventually, after getting cooked, will become wonderfully fibrous. Also, what's important here is to ensure that it's nice and clean. You need to remove all the sinews, all the silver skin, all the cartilages so that eventually it's nice and meaty. But it's also important to get the fibers cooked because you do not want to continue chewing onto meat. The first thing here is crushing some pepper. Now, one thing that you need to kind of note when you're using a mortar and pestle of this size, never go knocking like this, because you'll just ending up making a lot of sound, a lot of noise. What's important here is to add the ingredient and then just keep rolling like so. When you do something like this, you'll immediately see and notice the difference. Now see what I've done here. This is wonderfully gritty, exactly the way you and I want it, or like it rather. Let's add the crushed or ground pepper to begin with. This is immediately followed by chili flakes, red chili powder. You would also end up using some cayenne or sweet paprika, roasted cumin powder, cinnamon powder. Now this addition brings it that wonderfully Arabic note in the recipe. Some curd. We're not using hung curd or anything like that. This is basically just ghar ka jama dahi. Red onions, roughly sliced, followed by some vegetable oil. Well, of course, the fat in the goat meat is going to wonderfully lace in layers of flavor, but oil is required. Salt to taste or as required. You can, of course, adjust all of this later as well in terms of flavor profile. And last but not the least, freshly squeezed lemon juice. Just ensure you collect all the seeds because you do not want surprises in your mouth. It's important to use clean fingers or clean hands and mix all of this. Now this is a very important step because you want all the little grains of curd, which are called curds, to break so that it's nice and smooth. The marination has to be smooth. Also, when you're doing this, you also want to kind of break in the red onions. Of course, it's important to massage all of this well, and that's why you have the most amazing flavorful marinade or marinade or marination, however you kind of recognize this, for the goat meat. Now, in case you have some time at hand, you can keep this in the refrigerator for 3-4 hours covered so that this is beautifully marinated and the flavors kind of seep in. But because this is goat meat and we are cooking it for a longer time, in a lot of ways it's immaterial. My mouth is already watering. Let's begin cooking. I'm transferring all of this in a wok. You can also use a kadhai or any thick bottomed vessel. Let's transfer all of this. Scrape in all the masalas. Lastly, I'm going to take some water and take all of this spice mix as well. Scrape the bowl, which is very important because, like I said, you do not want to miss on any of this spice. Well, these are little home tricks that we all use to ensure that nothing goes waste. Let's transfer this. Add in some more water, of course. We need to cover this, and like I said, cook this for 40 to 45 minutes on medium flame or till this is perfectly cooked. It's been around 15-20 minutes. Let's have a quick check. Well, the meat is of course getting cooked. The water is also getting absorbed as well as evaporated at the same time. But since we've covered it, it's all rolling back into the pan, which is again very important. Now, while this meat is getting cooked, it's of course going to take another 20-25 minutes to kind of cook to the doneness that we're looking at. In the interim, you can make of course a lot of sauces. You can make a hummus, you can make some garlic toom, you can make a labne, you can make tahini or a tahina dressing. You can also make some pickles, but I am going to make it very easily. And I am going to use store-bought mayonnaise. Let's cover this and continue cooking. It's been around 40 minutes. The meat seems to have cooked. Let's have a quick check. Well, there you go. Now to splinter this, or rather break these into shards, what I'm going to do is use a potato masher and just go mash, mash, mash. Of course, lower the flame because you do not want to get burnt. Now the moment you mash this, of course it's going to get split like so. This is almost similar to pulling any meat while getting baked or roasted. Increase the flame, continue cooking for at least another 7 to 8 minutes. But before that, let's have a quick stirring session. Well, what happens with the splitting, of course, is that the meat gets split and also now is going to get all juiced up from within. The gravy is now continuing to dry up, but while it's getting dried, it's also getting absorbed in the meat. Now, while this is getting cooked, let's move on to another very quick step, and that is slicing onions and cucumbers. Let's move on to slicing cucumber. I'm cutting these at an angle so that they kind of even look better while you're making the buns. Cucumber cut and ready. Let's quickly stir this. It's nice and juicy. Of course, you can see it with your own eyes. With this, of course, the flame. And the next step is to assemble the shawarma buns. For which, like I said, I'm going to use a bun in this case because we're making lamb shawarma buns. Now you can also toast this to begin with. I'm not doing that. A generous dollop of mayonnaise. On top of this, I'm adding in some lettuce, just refreshing few leaves. Now this is a classic red Lolo Rosso that I'm using. By all means, you can use iceberg, romaine, also known as cos, frise. They all look wonderful. Let's drain out all the water and place the lettuce like so. On top of this, I'm going to place a sliced onion. You can also add in some pickles at this stage, some beetroots, some jalapenos, cucumbers. It's all going to be wonderful. Let's top this up with a generous dollop of the shawarma lamb mix that we've just made, just nice and juicy. Let's place in some slices of cucumber. And finally, we're going to top this up with top of the bun. Again, a generous smear of mayonnaise. And there you go. With this, your lamb shawarma in buns is done and ready. You can make this for your family and friends this shawarma day, or make it for your Valentine and make your Valentine Day extra special. Bye for now.